Minecraft has a lot of different aspects. There's redstone, parkour, PvP, and more. I personally am a building-focused player and have built a lot over the years. I am even a builder for 3 different Minecraft events, but I am not that great at building. Compared to the greats like BOO, Shovel241, Grian, Good Times with Scars, Snarple, Mogswamp, Jaracraft, and Pearlescent Moon, just to name a few, I have a long way to go in order to become a great Minecraft builder. And so on my quest to become a better builder, I am going to build a day in order to improve. And it's time to pick a theme for the week. I wonder what we're going to get. I hope it's nothing too crazy, but I hope it's good. It looks like we got Medieval Rainbow. Okay. Medieval Rainbow means one of each build's main color is a different color of the rainbow. Since the first color of the rainbow is red, I chose to go for a barracks. I started with a classic L-shaped building and used some darker tones of red made possible by red terracotta and mangrove wood, and I used dark oak as a nice contrasting color. As a transition block between the 2 layers, I used red glazed terracotta. I continued to build up the frame of the building in order to make sure the shape looked right. I mostly build by first going with shape, followed by color, and then detail. I raised the build in order to start landscaping. Since this was a barracks, I added an archery range and a little battle arena for soldiers to practice. Finally, I added some trees and greenery to ground the build within the environment. For the second build, I went with a color palette of red sandstone and acacia wood, with white and brown tones as the accent. I personally think these colors work really well together and make each other pop. I decided to go with a box with a slight diagonal as the main portion of the structure with a white tower to round off the build to make it less boxy. Building on angles and with circles allow for less flat surfaces and more interest to the viewer. You can add balconies, patios, and flower pots as easy ways to increase depth in a build and help prevent flat walls. I decided to make this building a vineyard, and also I added some pumpkins as a way to add more orange to the build. For day 3, I decided to go with a bee farm. I went for a pretty square building this time with a main square and a smaller square jutting off. For the frame portion of the build, I used a combination of oak and stripped spruce logs in order to make the frame less uniform. With the new wood types, doing this kind of stuff makes it much easier, and as we have way more shades of brown. The second layer is where the yellow was placed, as I thought having a full build of yellow would be too similar to the previous builds. As always, landscaping was last, and I put a bunch of flowers and beehives around in order to sell this bee farm. I have green for the 4th build and decided to go with a farm look. The farmhouse was a T-shaped building with a block palette of mostly greens and spruce, with dark oak as a highlight block. Additionally, jungle was used to break up large sections of green as the blocks have some greenish tints. Since I hadn't put any lime in this build at this point, I had space during the terraforming, so I decided to add a windmill to the back. I used a technique I learned from Pearlescent Moon for the handrails on the second layer of the windmill. Using lecterns with carpet or trapdoors on top make a wonderful looking handrail. After I finished the windmill, I added a path and some farmland. For day 5, I had to use cyan. Since cyan has a bluish tint, I decided to make a water wheel. The house itself isn't too different from anything else in this video, but it does make good use of gradients. I worked my way up from dark cyan concrete up to light cyan concrete powder. I decided to use the darker tone of dark oak for the framing material and dark prismarine for the roof to contrast the brightness of the cyan. The water wheel uses a bunch of stairs and trapdoors in order to make a good looking circle, and on the little bridge I made, I used hanging signs as railings. After pasting in some trees, the build was done. To continue with the water theme, I decided to make a house with an attached dock. I started off with the terrain to make building easier. I started with a basic rectangle shape and filled it in with darker blues. I cut the second floor in half by adding a half roof over the part of the bottom floor in order to add shape. For the second floor, I went with some light blues and jungle for the framing. I extended the dock in order for a boat to dock. I started shaping the boat with cherry planks in order to get a good shape. Once I was happy with it, I started coloring. At the bottom of the boat, I used dark prismarine and cyan terracotta to show some rust and overgrowth to the hull. I used blue terracotta as the base color of the ship and used light blue terracotta to show where the light might have hit the ship. I put the ship in the water and finished with some landscaping. For the final build, I had 2 colors, purple and pink. I use sandstone as the base color as the sandstone color works well with many of the purple and pink blocks in the game. Unlike most of the other builds, I used the assigned colors to more as an accent or highlight block instead of the main block color. This allowed me to play a lot with the shaping and to have a more whimsical vibe to the build. This build was one of my favorites in this video, mostly because of the complex shape. With the large tower and the other bits and bobs, it makes it really pleasing to look at. For the terraforming, I decided to make some custom cherry blossom trees that I thought turned out pretty well. While I could have ended it there, I decided to put all the builds together into one map. After copying over all the builds, I did some terraforming and smoothing between transitions. I plan to try and post a video to the series every Sunday, but since I have a life outside of content creation, I may not be able to keep up with a demanding schedule. So some weeks I may not post a video in the series on time or at all. Also, if you're enjoying this video, consider subscribing, and if you have any ideas for future themes, leave them in the comments, and I will add them to the wheel for future. Now that the final build is done, onto the glamour shots. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.